So Elon Musk is a great leader of the 21st century, and it's very interesting to have this talk now about Fabrice Bernhard and Nicolas Boutin, Toyota versus Tesla, what Lean can learn from digital natives. Nicolas and Fabrice.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're very honored with Nicolas to be here today to do the last talk and to talk to you not just about what digital can learn from Lean, but also what Lean can learn from digital. My name is Fabrice Bernhard. I'm the co-founder of Theodo.
And I'm Nicolas Boutin, architect developer at Theodo.
So we chose the title of Toyota versus Tesla because I think it's a very interesting embodiment of the culture clash between the Lean community and the digital community. When I look at Twitter on the Lean community, for them it's obvious that Tesla is a complete disaster. They're struggling to produce cars and they're facing challenges that have been solved 20 or more years ago by the rest of the car industry, but they're trying to reinvent everything and completely failing at it. But, I want to be a bit contrarian about that and, look at Tesla more from a digital industry point of view. They've got some things right, and starting by their incredible valuation. They've been for now quite some time valued the same as Ford or GM, and they've achieved that in a matter of years. And it's not just wind. Not just, because they've actually been able also to grow very fast their sales. This is a graph to let you visualize that a bit better. It's a comparison of sales between Porsche about 25 years ago and Tesla starting 5 years ago. So you can see that when you compare to Porsche at the time, which was selling approximately the same number of cars as Tesla 5 years ago, Tesla has been growing much faster. Tesla is the blue line. And what has Tesla done so well? I think the first thing is and what has Tesla brought from this more like digital industry and Silicon Valley startup culture? Well, first it brought the powerful brand. Tesla they've invested a lot. They're a very big brand. They've got like a huge community of fans. I tried to find some iconic fans so we can see Will Smith's son posing in front of his Tesla, or some crazy guy who's such a big fan of Tesla that he has to defend them. And this powerful brand has really helped them attract huge amounts of capital, which we've seen in the valuation. But not just that, it also helped them hire some of the best talents you can find in the US. If you look at critics of the Tesla work culture, there's a lot of them, but they all agree that the people you find there are very bright and very motivated. It has also helped them attract a lot of patient customers. The numbers are crazy on that. There's about 500,000 people who actually paid $1,000 to book a Tesla, which they might see maybe one day, a few years later. I know some of them. So that's a really cool thing, but there's also something very interesting. There's a culture of sharing information, with the caveat of course, doing that if it can help them scale faster. But they've, for example, open sourced a lot of things. So they've got a very active GitHub account. They've released patents to apparently accelerate the innovation in the electric vehicles industry. With some interesting results. One of them, that I picked in a Deloitte study around suppliers that said that suppliers were actually giving Tesla very high scores in openness, ease of working, and trust, way above the competitors. And a third thing that Tesla has done very well is, of course, bringing the software culture in the car industry. Nigel was mentioning it this morning. Over the updates coming to Toyota, it seems that Tesla really brought that, helping the product continue to evolve even after you've actually bought it. They made the news with one of their recent update, which was actually about fixing the braking system. So it's a bit scary, but it's certainly groundbreaking. So we can see that actually Toyota and Tesla, they're very different cultures, very, very different cultures. And I mean, you can trace that back to their origins, which are completely different. Of course, here we're like a lot of lean enthusiasts, but we should not forget that lean was really invented in post-war Japan. Japan had been destroyed. I was trying to find like nice pictures of nice, I'm not sure it's the right word, but like pictures that really showed how destroyed Japan was at the time. And in this time, for Toyota, it was a necessity to do capital optimization and be very good at it. The Tesla comes from the Silicon Valley culture, so it's completely different. On the contrary, it's all about scaling as fast as you can, and without caring about money. Money is not the problem. You know, you've got 80 billion VC money invested in the US every year for the last 4 years. And it's very much about being the first, the winner, and taking the position. Peter Thiel, who actually was a colleague of Elon Musk, and in the previous paper Life, wrote a book about that, where he says it's all about trying to create a monopoly, and so getting there as fast as you can, and then reaping the benefits. So we see that with two different origins like that, they have very different ways of like solving similar problems. And what is interesting, and I think we should be looking at, because we're at the Lean Digital Summit today, is what would the best of both worlds look like? So with Nicolas, we were wondering, how do we actually know what the best of both worlds would look like? And we thought we need to find people. So ideally, a company to study that would be scaling very fast in the digital industry, ideally full of digital natives, so really have like this digital culture, and also doing lean a lot to see what the result is. So we looked and we found that Theodo was a very good candidate. So as you can see from this picture, first point, Theodo is full of digital natives. Most of the people are born after '88. We're completely at the core of the digital industry. So what we do is we build digital products for clients. So we like talk to them, identify business opportunities, and then create a team to design and code the digital product that will address their problem. And we do that for a wide range of clients, so really from tech startups to also like much more traditional industries who have never heard of digital before. And we've been doing lean massively since 2012 with this very interesting demonstration that lean works, because we've been scaling from 1 million revenue at a time to almost 30 million this year. So to look at Theodo in details, I thought the best would be to actually look at an amazing Kaizen that Nicolas did and see how they blend together.
Okay, so thank you very much, Fabrice, for this nice introduction. So I'll do my best to share with you my last experimentation. So I started working on a project, the name is AssuranceV.com. And actually, the funny part of this company is that the only online part of AssuranceV.com was the .com. Like, there is no, before we arrived on this company, before we started to work for this company, there were the whole subscription tunnel were 100% the old way. It means that as a customer, you get the form through the letters into your letterbox. You fill in the form with your favorite pen, and then you send it back to AssuranceV.com. And so, like some competitors like ING started to work on online insurance life subscription, and it's exactly what we did with AssuranceV.com. And at the end of the day, so we spent like 3 months working on this project, and we pushed to production a full online subscription tunnel and we managed to double the number of subscription. But some problems arrived. And it started with the CEO who came to us and told us, guys, we are exploding the product roadmap. We are not going fast enough. And a natural inclination is to go faster, is to increase the number of developers. But do you know what happened when we did it? In fact, the celerity decreased, and we wanted to know why. And so I want to start by telling you a story of one of my friends, which is currently working as a developer in a French startup. And when I told him that in Theodo we are doing user story that lasts only one day, he couldn't believe me. Like in his company, the average length of a user story was 1 week. And so I was very, very proud of that, and very proud of what we do in Theodo, until Michael Ballet came to our office. So please, in manufacturing, if an operator takes more than 10 minutes to do something, it means he is not mastering the work content. And he is right. Like, at the end of the day, when you are late and you take a look back to see what happened the day before, it's very difficult to remember the problems you were facing. And so finding the root causes is like to looking for a needle in the haystack. And fortunately, our CTO, Benjamin, which is just there, went to Japan for a lean trip. And when he went back, he had stars in his eyes. In Toyota factory, he told us that in Toyota factory, workers are mastering the work content. Like, if you look at any video on workers that working on production line in Toyota factories, they look so serene. And each step, like the takt time of each step is less than 10 minutes. So let's try to apply to our own business and to apply it to our own business. So first, I'm going to start to code a user story. So the user story is the feature we want to develop. Is the objective is to create a subscription on insurance company portal through an API. Okay, so the first step is to do a breakdown of all the technical steps. And the important things is that so what I add in these steps, at the end of the steps, is the opening a pull request, continuous integration build, and pushing the feature into validation platform. The important thing here is to don't leave any step out. Once you've done with that, you can go to the next step. And the next step is a senior developer challenges what we call the conception sheet. The objective here is to ensure that the developer is not going into the wrong direction and is not going into the wrong direction. And then we are ready to code. So let's code. Let's go to the next step and starting code until we encounter a problem. And what happens in Toyota when we encounter a problem? So do you know what is that? So this is an undone light. And each time there is a problem on a production line in Toyota factory, so the light becomes red, the production line stops, and a supervisor comes to help the worker solve the issue. So the question is now how we can apply this way of work to our virtual production line. So we have our problem, well, I have my problems, and we added an alert so that the developer can know that he's exceeding the current task. So when he needs help, he just switch on our homemade on-done lights, a light saber. And a supervisor comes to help the developer solve the issue. It's an important word of warning. You can't let developers stuck in their problems. So you need to be very careful to have senior developer available to answer to the undone. And then the production line can restart until we ship the feature to the product owner. Okay, so that's great. And now I would like to go into the gold mine to see where to get some gold. So sorry. So I want to start by having a look at the breakdown with the 3 problems I encountered. So the first one is that I didn't know how to write a functional test. I lost 45 minutes. So the second one was that I didn't have, when I went on my local version website, I got an error, and because the database schema was outdated, 13 minutes lost. And then the last one was that the CI build, I waited for 30 minutes for the CI builds, the continuous integration to build. And so at the end of the day, I wasted more than 1.5 hours like stuck in the problems. So do you realize, guys, that I spent as much time stuck in problems than developing the user story? So there is a huge potential of increasing the productivity. And the question is now, which problem should we solve first? And for this, I have 2 tips to give it to you. So the first one is you need to identify the problems that will help you to succeed in tomorrow. And the second tip is that you can identify the recurrent problems that occurs, and by using a Pareto. So this is a Pareto. Okay, so now I want to give you 3 examples of Kaizen we did on the experimentation to solve the issues we just seen. So the first problem we wanted to tackle is that we were losing 18 minutes to run continuous integration builds. So a developer was just waiting for the continuous integration to build during 18 minutes per tickets. Sophie and Thomas, 2 developers of the team, decided to lead this Kaizen. So they understood that we were losing time when running functional tests because we were creating database and running migration and integrating data into the database for each test. So one test costs 2 seconds, and we have 300 tests. What they experimented is to create a database at the beginning of the test suite, database dump, sorry, at the beginning of the test suite, and import it at the beginning of each test. And by doing this, we earned, we divided by 3 the continuous integration build time. So the second Kaizen I wanted to share with you was one led by Alan, which is here today. And so the problem was that we were losing 30 minutes per user story because of error we got as environment was unclean. And so what he did, he writes and shares an automated script to clean the environment and to start with a very clean environment. So we went from 30 minutes to 3 minutes earning by tickets. And the last one was a problem of skill. Like because we were like spending 60 minutes to code a functional test, whereas it should cost only 10 minutes. And so what I did is I looked at the best practice in open source world. I defined the right gesture, and I trained all the team so that we can improve our productivity on coding functional tests. And the best of that is that at the end of the day, the developers of the team are mastering what they are doing. So, and it works. And it works. It like we succeed to double the productivity of the team in like 7 sprints. And so thanks to those 3 Kaizens and thanks to this new method. And what is like the best things of all this experimentation is that it's empowering each developer of the team to act as a team leader and growing Theodoers as much faster than ever before.
Yeah, thank you, Nicolas, for this amazing description of how we've used Lean in our digital day-to-day work to really improve productivity. But now the question was, what are we doing at Theodo in the way we do Lean that is different from the way like a car company would do it? So what are the things that we're actually doing that we never saw in the factories in Japan that we were visiting? And so we looked at that with Nicolas, and we came up with actually quite a few things that for us were completely natural, but were certainly not seen in the usual Lean community. So the first thing, funny enough, is branding again, because when Nicolas started to do this, like very detailed steps of coding at a less than 10-minute scale, the code name for that was called Pud Flow. So the whole thing, like having to measure yourself to really little steps that were in the minutes, it was called Pud Flow. It was not very sexy, it was very dry. And so one of the things that we came up in the team was, okay, we need to name it, we need to make it sound much more sexy than that. And someone actually said, the funny thing about what we're doing is that we're like comparing ourselves to like our best times. So it's a bit like in Mario Kart when you're trying to race against your best time. There's like a ghost kart, which represents you in the previous race, and you're trying to race against yourself. So we thought, oh, that's the same. So that's when we call it ghost programming. And all of a sudden, ghost programming, which is very cool, and everyone forgot that it used to be called Pud Flow just before. So, a second thing we did, and again, very, very naturally, is, well, everything we do is code, well, when it's code, and it's shared. So, for example, Nicolas mentioned like a script that Alan had created. So the script is on GitHub, which means that every time there's an improvement made to the script, everyone in the team or the other teams using the same script get the latest version. So similarly, you get over-the-air update. Another example is Casper, which is a tool that was created to help people do ghost programming in a nicer way. Well, Casper is open source internally. So this means that when people want to improve it, or they see like a bug or a mistake, they can correct it. And of course, everyone gets the last version immediately because it's an online tool. And around sharing, as soon as Nicolas started learning things, I mean, Nicolas and the team started learning things with the Kaizens, they published, for example, this, Nicolas published the working standards around testing in Symfony. so that everyone could like use it all across the company immediately. And I think it's Sophie also, like when she found some her trick about the database dumps, she published it on a public blog and shared it on the social media, getting like thousands of views for like this really neat learning. So quite naturally, we did like this sharing much faster than I've ever seen it in a car company. One last thing we did, which again is like I think very new, is we realized that many people were doing similar Kaizens across the company and also across the channel, because we've got an office in London and one in Paris. So what was done to try to bridge and get all these teams together was to use Workplace. So Workplace is the professional version of Facebook, to create communities around experts working on similar topics. So that's very interesting, because of course this means that what Lean has enabled us to gain in terms of productivity, we've been able to scale it across the company in less than 12 months. And even though I can't really measure that, we really feel with Benoit, my co-founder, that innovation has gone very fast in Theodo in the last 12 months. And of course, this has emboldened us, and especially Nicolas. So what is coming next? A lot of buzzwords. Data. The amazing thing around the ghost programming methodology is that you can actually start identifying a lot of data on who is struggling on what, and you could therefore identify the largest bottlenecks company-wide and not just at teams. This would be amazing, because of course we're in the digital industry, which means that a lot of things we do, if they're repetitive, if they're repeated across the company a lot, we can actually productize them. We could write libraries, we could write modules, plugins, improve frameworks to make sure we don't repeat the same tasks again, so potentially saving us thousands of hours. And one amazing thing, because of course I had to mention AI, is we even have an idea of how to use AI. One of the ideas is we could use natural language processing to categorize the gestures, therefore being able to add suggestions when you use ghost programming that will tell you, oh, you're working on functional standards in Symfony, a functional test in Symfony. This is a working standard that could help you go faster, and these are the generators that you could use to actually write most of the boring part of the code. And this means that in a matter of years, we will enable everyone at Theodo to become a super developer, having this image of science fiction. But the very interesting thing about that is actually when you look at what digital enables, it really enables things that look like science fiction 20 years ago. And I wanted to give you this example, which is the example of WordPress. In the 90s, so what, 20 years ago, when you were trying to publish content on the internet, and you wanted to try to create a website, especially if it was a bit dynamic, you had to write a lot of HTML and CGI scripts. So that was like hundreds of hours of very technical, very boring work. And things evolved quite quickly, and in 2003, a few guys decided to work on something called WordPress, and now you've got 25%, I think, of the internet, so 75 million websites, which are powered using WordPress, which means that the whole content management technical part that used to be done manually every time you publish content on the internet is now automatically done by WordPress, saving billions of hours to everyone. So this is an amazing, this is an amazing impact that WordPress had, which if you had told me about it 20 years ago would have certainly sounded like science fiction. And I think this is what really digital makes completely different. It enables tech leaders to have tremendous impact. So I'll give you the example of Matt. So Matt Mullenweg on the left was one of the co-founders of WordPress. I think he was 18 or 19 when he started. What he did is now used by 75 million websites. So really, all of us are using WordPress websites certainly every day. Another amazing example, if you don't know him, Linus Torvald on the right, the founder of Linux, started working on it in his early 20s. He created an operating system from scratch that completely revolutionized the world of servers, and it's now powering about, I think, 70% of the web servers in the world. So that's the amazing thing about digital, that it enables tech leaders to have tremendous impact. So now if you come back to Lean, and we see Lean as a scalable way to grow leaders, credible leaders, this means that if we use Lean and digital, we can transform, we can grow curious and ambitious people into Matt Mullenwegs or Linus Torvalds, enabling them to have like tremendous impact. So what we're saying is that basically the potential of Lean and digital is to grow in a scalable manner leaders with tremendous impact, which means an immense potential for changing the world. And I think it's quite interesting, because if that's really what we're doing, like us, like Lean and digital practitioners, is we're really like, growing teams everywhere of people who will have will be able to become tech leaders and be able to have like this tremendous impact. So we're really like at the beginning of something crazy, because that means we will have people who can really make, solve the problem of tech, make technology not the bottleneck anymore, and make sure that we can should really like have a maximum impact. And I think that's what Lean should learn from digital, is that what we're doing can be much bigger than what has ever been done in maybe like more traditional industries, and therefore we should learn to aim big and make sure that we look at what we're doing to like change the world. Pioneers of Lean and digital, thank you very much.